But yeah, as I reflected on that theme of mops that Christine was reading, I think it's so interesting that that the verse that our theme stems from actually doesn't tell us to find our fire, which I think it's implied, but it actually tells us to never let the fire go out. And for me, that's the greater challenge. The spark is often the easy part, but keeping the fire going is harder. And this past 6 months, there have definitely been circumstances that have threatened to extinguish my fire. Last summer, my father-in-law noticed some areas on my husband's back and insisted that he get them checked out by a dermatologist as soon as possible. And the biopsy results came back with 2 areas of melanoma, which is the scary kind of skin cancer that can spread. And although in the cancer world, this is the best kind of cancer to have, it still instilled anxiety in me, especially since the initial results looked like the melanoma was pretty deep and that there was a fair chance that the cancer had spread already. So our fall was filled with a surgery to remove Drew's cancer, recovery, more mole removals. My husband, I'm like, you're like Frankenstein now, and doctor appointments. Ultimately, we got the good news that the cancer had not spread, and then right after celebrating, we began receiving those awesome medical bills that, like the Energizer Bunny, just don't stop. Then, as we were finally coming up for air, I got a phone call one Sunday in December from my sister-in-law. And she said my dad, who was in great shape, had collapsed during a bike ride from some sort of cardiac event and that he'd been without oxygen for too long for him to survive. I immediately got on a plane to go to Ohio where my parents live to be with my family during the next week. And losing someone you love is never easy, but the suddenness of my dad's death felt like having the rug pulled out from under my feet. I had no time to prepare myself for it, and I felt robbed of the chance to say goodbye, or of knowing that the last time I saw him alive would be the last time. Processing the last several months has felt surreal and difficult, and just like too much to bear. I would like to say that it hasn't crossed my mind to compare my circumstances to others, but I'm not that spiritual. I often find myself wondering why other people's lives seem charming and full of joy, or why their prayers were answered and mine weren't, or why my life feels burdensome. And I know that it's not just that we feel this way when the tragedies strike. There's so much stress in our lives when babies aren't sleeping, when finances are tight, when there's tension with our spouses, when there's developmental issues in our kids. It's just natural for us to feel overwhelmed and alone and in danger of losing our flame. And I still feel very much in the midst of grief and disillusionment. But I've also remembered something that a friend of mine shared when she was going through some hardships. She said that at some point, she realized that she had been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, God, why are you doing this? She really needed to ask, God, what are you doing in this? And obviously this is not a fix-it solution or a magic bullet, but when I do this, I move from the place of focusing on my circumstances into a willingness to trust. When I've started asking, God, show me, what are you doing? It moves me into an expectation that he's taking this crap pill of a season and using it somehow for a purpose and for my good. I find that in place of despair, I see hope, and that while he does not delight in my misfortune, he promises to be at work in it. Hebrews 12:1-2 says, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. I've been challenged lately to fix my eyes on Jesus. When my eyes move from my circumstances to him, I see that I am not alone. I see a person who the Bible says has experienced suffering in every way, so that he understands exactly what I'm going through. I look at the one who endured suffering for me so that I wouldn't have to be alone or without hope. And in a season that has felt dark at times, I sense a shift within me every time I look to Jesus. I know that he will not let me down, and he will not let the fire within me go out.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Catherine, for just sharing your heart and your journey these last couple months. I know all of us have just been here with you and walked through it with you, and I'm really proud of you for going first and sharing your heart. Okay, so I'm gonna pray for Catherine now, so if you